Gaza. All these are very muscular foreign policy. How does this align with America First?
Because it makes us bigger, stronger, and better, and more protective. We need Greenland because of national security, international security, world peace. And we'll have to do that. Canada, we'll see what happens with Canada, but the people of Canada would be paying less than half of the tax. If you look at the tax, they're going to be paying less than half the tax. They don't pay very much for military, and the reason they don't pay much is they assume that we're going to protect them. That's not an assumption they can make, because why are we protecting another country? Now, I love the people of Canada. We have a great relationship. But if they became our 51st state, it would be the greatest thing they could ever do. It would be unbelievable. It would be a cherished state. And think of how beautiful that country would be without that artificial line running right through it. Somebody drew it many years ago with a ruler, just a line. You look at how beautiful that is, wow, it would be very exciting. But if you look at Canada, it would be cherished as a 51st state. They don't pay their share of military in NATO. They pay very little for military. They're not protected at all. And the reason is they think we're going to protect them. The other thing is we subsidize them to the tune of about $200 billion a year. If we stop doing that, if we stop allowing them to make cars through tariffs and other things, cars, trucks, etc., what they make, they're not viable as a country.
So would you agree that it's a more aggressive foreign policy than your first term? And why is that?
It's more aggressive. It's better. Why? Because I think I've had a lot of experience. And in my first term, I was fighting everybody because they were very aggressive toward me. I always said survival and taking care of the country, not necessarily in that order. But I had to take care of the country, but I had a bunch of lunatics like Pelosi and all of these people. They fought me, and we won. And, I had a lot of other things that were going on there. This time it's much more, they've lost their confidence. I think they've lost the respect of the American people with, men participating in women's sports, with open borders, with transgender for everybody, for all the things that they're doing is so bad. When you allow people to empty their jails into your country with prisoners, killers, their mental institutions and insane asylums into our country, this is what they're doing. When you allow gang members from Venezuela, but many other countries coming into our country, we're getting them all out now. They've lost their credibility, but they've also lost their confidence. So I have more time to do what I want to do. So we're making our country larger. We're making our country stronger. And in the case of Canada, if this should happen, I don't know how they can do it without us, because without the U.S., Canada really doesn't have a country. They do almost all of their business with us. And if we say we want our cars to be made in Detroit, with a stroke of a pen, I can do that. And other things in addition to that would not allow Canada to be a viable country.
Mr. President, you said you're going to honor first responders today, but you pardoned hundreds of people who assaulted first responders. Why did you do that?
Who?
You were going to meet with first responders today.
Yeah.
But you pardoned people who assaulted first responders.
No, I pardoned people that were assaulted themselves. They were assaulted by our government. I pardoned J6 people who were assaulted by our government. That's who assaulted, and they were treated unfairly. There's never been a group of people in this country, outside of maybe one instance that I can think of, but I won't get into it, that were treated more horribly than the people of J6. So, no, I didn't assault. They didn't assault. They were assaulted. And what I did was a great thing for humanity. They were treated very, very unfairly. There's never been an incident like it.
Two foreign policy questions. On Putin again, you realize if you don't clarify that, everyone's going to assume you're talking to President Putin regularly.
Well, they can assume that.
So is it safe?
It makes sense. Well, I don't want to talk about it. And if we are talking, I don't want to tell you about the conversation. It's too early. But I do believe we're making progress. We want to stop the Ukraine-Russia war. And I want to stop it just because I hate to see all these young people being killed. The soldiers are being killed by the hundreds of thousands.
So you're starting to put together a plan for like a peace formula or for some sort of resolution?
We're talking to both sides. Yeah.
Okay. And then on Japan, are you okay with having a foreign country having a controlling interest in a U.S. steel company?
Well, now let's look at this. When I came here, they were going to buy it, and Biden was going to approve it. All of a sudden, Biden didn't because he heard I wasn't going to. I don't want U.S. Steel being owned by a foreign
But a
country.
controlling interest is okay?
They can have they don't have a controlling. They have an investment. All they're going to have is an investment.
Will it be a joint
I don't
venture?
mind an investment in a company, but especially U.S. Steel. U.S. Steel for 15 years was the greatest company in the world, the greatest #1 company in the world, and I'm not going to let another country buy it. We had a great meeting on that, but they are allowed to invest in it, and that's different.
Mr. President, on tariffs, sir, you talked about reciprocal tariffs coming in this week. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And are you announcing a plan for it this week?
Yeah, I'll be
The tariffs
announcing.
themselves kick in this week.
I'll be announcing probably Tuesday or Wednesday at a news conference reciprocal tariffs, and very simply, it's if they charge us, we charge them. That's all.
When does it go into effect, sir?
Almost immediately, but I'll be announcing the details of it, highly detailed, and it'll be great for everybody, including the other countries. But if they are charging us 130% and we're charging them nothing, it's not going to stay that way.
This is on every country?
Every country will be reciprocal, that's right. Every country.
President, can you confirm that
It won't affect everybody because there's somewhere we have similar tariffs. But the ones that are taking advantage of the United States, we're going to have it's reciprocity, it's reciprocal. We're going to have a reciprocal tariff. But we'll have a news conference Tuesday or Wednesday.
And just on the steel question, just so I understand.
We'll
you
also be
correctly,
announcing steel tariffs on Monday.
on this tomorrow.
Monday, yeah, tomorrow.
What countries will those go on?
Everybody, steel.
Including Canada, Mexico,
Yeah,
United States.
any steel coming into the United States is going to have a 25% tariff.
What about aluminum, sir?
Aluminum too.
10%? What's yours?
25%.
25 for aluminum as well.
25 for both.
For both. And on steel, sir, are you ruling out then Nippon Steel having a 51% stake or higher? They won't have a majority stake?
Nobody can have a majority stake for U.S. Steel. They can for other companies, but not for U.S. Steel. I think you agree with that, Doug, right? U.S. Steel was one of our great companies, and through a lot of stupidity and bad government and also bad management of the company, it lost that luster. But it's going to gain it back, and tariffs are going to help. Tariffs are going to make it very successful again. And I think it is good management now, too. Yeah.
Sorry, sir. May I ask one, please? Can you tell me? Can you confirm that you'll be meeting with MBS and CC of Egypt soon? Will that be at the White House, or are you going to speak?
Well, I'll be meeting with all of them numerous times, by the way, but I'll be meeting with all of them. And yeah, I think that it's a big mistake to allow people, the Palestinians or the people living in Gaza, to go back yet another time. And we don't want Hamas going back. And think of it as a big real estate site. And the United States is going to own it and will slowly, very slowly, we're in no rush, develop it. We're going to bring stability to the Middle East, to a totally war-torn part of the Middle East, a part of the Middle East that has caused tremendous problem, the Gaza Strip, and we'll own it. It's totally demolished right now. It's a demolition site. It'll be reclaimed. It'll be leveled out, fixed up. There won't be anybody there. Hamas won't be there. We'll be building through other of the very rich countries in the Middle East. They'll be building some beautiful sites for the people, for the Palestinians to live in. They'll be living in harmony and peace probably for the first time in hundreds of years.
And just to clarify, I know you don't want to tell us about your conversation with President Putin, but can you clarify whether you had that since you've been in office, or whether it happened before you became president?
I've had it. Let's just say I've had it.
As
And I expect to have many more conversations. We have to get that war ended. It's going to end, and we have to get it ended. And we have to get it ended. So should have never happened, would have never happened if I was president.
Mr. President, a couple of years ago, your vice president suggested that if the Supreme Court rules in a way you don't like, just let them enforce it. Do you agree with that?
Say the last part.
The vice president suggested that if the Supreme Court rules in a way that you don't like, they can just enforce it by themselves. Do you agree with that?
I don't know even what you're talking about. Neither do you. Who are you with?
Up close, sir.
Who?
Up close.
No wonder. I thought they died. Are they still around? I haven't read them in years. I thought they died. All right, go ahead. Who else?
On security clearances, you've been yanking a lot of them. Why does it make the country safer to take away the AG's security clearance? And is that a form of retribution?
If there's somebody, no. If there are people that we don't respect, if there are people that we thought that were breaking the law or came very close to it in previous years, we do it. And we've done it with some people. We've done it with Biden himself. We think our country is not as safe if you gave him clearance. We don't think he knows what he's doing. And what he's done to this country is a disgrace. And what he's done in terms of allowing criminals, murderers, drug lords into our country, people from mental institutions into our country, he should be ashamed of himself.
Is that a legally valid reason?
On deportations, there's been some reporting that you've been upset that there haven't been more deportations. Can you clarify that?
I think they're doing an incredible job. It's very tough. Deportations, finding murderers is not easy. Some of them are actually very smart. They shouldn't be in our country. There wouldn't have been. We had beautiful, we just set records for closure. We have the strongest border we've had in many years, since my term. But even for many, many years, decades before that. They're doing an amazing job, I think. Tom Homan's doing an amazing job. Kristi Noem is doing an amazing job. But it's not easy finding murderers who know they're being looked for. But we're sending out thousands of people. We're getting rid of thousands of criminals from our country.
So, in-house, do you expect to meet him in person?
Where?
Putin. Do you anticipate meeting with him?
I would imagine I would be meeting with Putin, yes, at the right time. I think at the right time, at the appropriate time.
Mr. President, back on Gaza, the White House press secretary told us last week that you're committed to rebuilding Gaza. Steve Witkoff said that process would take 10 to 15 years. Does your commitment to rebuilding Gaza extend beyond your time in office?
I'm committed to buying and owning Gaza. As far as us rebuilding it, we may give it to other states in the Middle East to build sections of it. Other people may do it through our auspices. But we're committed to owning it, taking it, and making sure that Hamas doesn't move back. There's nothing to move back into. The place is a demolition site. It'll be, the remainder will be demolished. Everything's demolished. I mean, you can't live in those buildings right now. They're very unsafe. But we'll make it into a very good site for future development by somebody. We'll let other countries develop parts of it. It'll be beautiful. People can come from all over the world and live there. But we're going to take care of the Palestinians. We're going to make sure they live beautifully and in harmony and in peace, and that they're not murdered. This has been the most dangerous site anywhere in the world to live in. Hamas has been a disaster. And by the way, I have to tell you that I watched the hostages come back today, and they look like Holocaust survivors. They were in horrible condition. They were emaciated. It looked like many years ago, the Holocaust survivors. And I don't know how much longer we can take that when I watch that. I know we have a deal where we're supposed to they dribble in and keep dribbling in, but they are in really bad shape. They have been treated brutally, horribly. Even the ones that came out earlier, they were in a little bit better shape, but mentally they were treated so badly. Who could take that? At some point, we're going to lose our patience. When I see that scene that I saw today with people coming out of helicopters and airplanes that are emaciated, that look like they haven't had a meal in a month, no reason for that, and I don't know how much longer we can take it.
Do you mean you want to recast?
I don't know how long we can take it. When I watch people that were healthy people a reasonably short number of years ago, and you look at them today, they look like they've aged 25 years. They literally look like the old pictures of Holocaust survivors. The same thing. I mean, the same thing. And I don't know how long we're going to take that.
Mr. President, have you got some advancement in your proposals for some of the Gulf or Arab nations to take some of the Palestinian people? And if
Yeah.
not, then what do you think the reason is for their hesitance? Is there some very honest reason that they've even told you privately, or that you think why they're hesitant to take the Palestinian people?
Why are they hesitant to take them? Because they never spoke to me. They spoke to other people. They didn't speak to me. When they speak to me, they're going to take them.
Is it because they think that you would not allow them to return to Gaza? Is that part of it?
They don't want to return to Gaza. If we could give them a home in a safer area, the only reason they're talking about returning to Gaza is they don't have an alternative. When they have an alternative, they don't want to return to Gaza. If they had a home that was safe, where you don't have Hamas threatening them, killing them, torturing them, they'd rather not return to Gaza. But right now, Gaza is the only alternative. As far as the other regions, the only reason they may be enthusiastic is they haven't talked to me. They talk to other people, but not to me. When they talk to me, they'll be enthusiastic.
And on spending, you found some maybe questionable expenditures, or Elon Musk is
Not
calling
some questionable. The whole country looks like it's a fraud. It's fraud, waste, abuse, but it's a tremendous fraud. And what Elon and his group of geniuses have found is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And that's just in USAID. Soon we're going into education. You'll find the same thing, but bigger. Soon we're going into the military, and you're going to find a lot of bad things happening there. You'll find it because our government has not functioned properly for many, many years, and we're going to make it function properly. We're even looking at treasuries. There could be a problem. You've been reading about that with treasuries. And that could be an interesting problem, because it could be that a lot of those things don't count. In other words, that some of that stuff that we're finding is very fraudulent. Therefore, maybe we have less debt than we thought of. Think of that. So a lot of things are happening, but Elon's doing an excellent job. We started with 12 guys with high IQs, and now we have 100 guys with very high IQs.
Do you think Congress has failed to do their oversight, or do you think your first administration, some of your cabinet agencies?
I think everybody failed. I think everybody failed.
And I just went on, why does Elon's financial disclosure remain secret?
Because nobody's looking at that. We're looking at all the corruption that's taken place. I mean, his financial disclosure is largely the number of shares that he's got in very public companies, and that's not secret at all. If you read that, you'll see a lot. I mean, he talks about his whole thing. I read one where it really gave a very good history of him, but basically it's a number of shares times a certain stock price.
So why is that not public?
It is public. All you have to do is read it.
So on USAID, sir, what is kind of like the message to countries that depend on humanitarian aid distributed through USAID? What is your message to those countries?
The ones that have been, the few that have been legitimate in terms of getting legitimate money, will probably put it through the State Department. It'll be handled by Marco Rubio, highly respected man, Secretary of State. There's no reason for USAID, when you look at the politicians that have been in there sucking the blood out of it, when you look at all of the fake deals, I mean, look, all you have to do is get a list of all of the things. You can see by the heading. It's fake, it's fraudulent, it's probably kickbacks, where they send the money and then it gets kicked back to the person that sent it. So the ones that are good, and there are not many of them, but the ones that are good, and there are some, will probably have that be handled by Marco Rubio in the State Department.
Will they take on some of the USAID workers?
They could, if they like.
Mr. President,
Will it still be called USAID, Mr. President, or will it not?
I don't know that it's going to exist. Why would you need it? The State Department can take care of it.
Do you think the amount of spending on foreign aid will decrease also, or just the number of employees?
It should decrease, yeah. I hope it decreases.
Yeah, by how much?
When we have $36 trillion in debt, and we're taking care of countries that are very rich and sending aid to countries in some cases that are rich, in some cases they're not rich. But no, it should very much decrease.
Mr. President,
But it won't be the scams that you've seen.
another cut that NIH put out a memo on Friday night. It's going to cut $4 billion from the percentage that they pay to universities and public colleges in all those states, not foreign countries. $4 billion. Is that okay to take off
Sure,
the top?
sure. It could be okay. I mean, you have to look at the university. Some are legit. You could also say, why are we giving money to Harvard when it's got a $50 billion endowment? $50 billion. And yet they don't use that endowment to help their students.
This is for research, like biomedical research.
That's fine. Look, we want to take care of research. We want to do a lot of things. But when you look at the USAID and you look at all the things and all the scams that was with, I don't have to go through it now, but I'll get you a little list, and you'll see one after another. There were very few legitimate. It was the opposite. Usually you find something wrong, like 1 out of 100, but this is the opposite. Here, almost everything was wrong. You find very few that were good, but there were some that were good. That'll be handled by the State Department, I assume. That's not final yet, but I think the best would be Marco Rubio at the State Department. One or two more.
You're going too much on launch services. Is the Pentagon spending too much on launch services to space?
I think space is going to be a very important element. You know, I'm the one that came up with Space Force. I'm very proud of it. Biden tried to get out of it, and he was really rebuked by the military. I think space is going to be one of the most important things we do. It's going to be all about space, especially defense. So space is very important.
Mr. President, would you accept Palestinian refugees into the United States since you're looking to other countries?
I'd have to
accept them
look.
also?
I think it's a very far distance for them to travel, but I'd have to look at individual cases. But I do think that coming into the United States, we've taken a lot of people, but coming into the United States, it's a long way for them to travel. They're far away from their families and their friends and everything else. I think they'd be very happy staying in the general area with in a place that was safe, where they could be safe and lead a good life. They don't want to go back to Gaza. As I said, I've said it a lot. They only go back because they have no alternative. They don't want to go back to Gaza. So we'll see. We hope that we'll be helped by Egypt. We hope that we'll be helped by Jordan. We hope that we'll be helped by other countries. We hope that some of the, like Saudi Arabia and others, can spend some money on it. They have tremendous amounts of money, and they'll spend some money on making people comfortable and safe.
One question about the Super Bowl. You're going to the game. One of the big things that you've done so far in office is cracking down on DEI. I saw that the NFL commissioner said, I think this week, that they're happy with their diversity program. What's your take on that? Would you like to see any changes there?
I don't know what the diversity program is. To be honest, I know Roger very well. I'd have to look at what he said he's happy with. He was happy also with the flag and a lot of other things that didn't work out too well. We'll have to see what he was happy with. But right now, that's, you know what the law is. The law is the law, and it changed, and it's been backed up by the U.S. Supreme Court. But we'll see. There are a lot of interesting things going on right now. I'll tell you what, there's a light over the United States. People are happy. They're more confident. The approval ratings for this country have gone through the sky. More than at any time we've had approval ratings, that there's never been anything like it. We've never seen 49 points up. 49 points up. And I think there's a light actually long beyond this country, all over the world. I've been called by other leaders. They said, sir, there's a light over our country right now. There's a light over the world. We got rid of a horrible and a totally inept administration, an administration where the president wouldn't even go and do a Super Bowl interview. For 4 years, I mean, he didn't do a Super Bowl interview. I did. You'll see it in about 1 or 2 hours.
One more
What
on
is
the
your
refs.
analysis of-
Do you have an opinion, sir, on whether the referees have been throwing the games to the Chiefs all season?
I don't believe that. No, I don't believe that.
Why
is
do
your
you want to
analysis
be
of the
chairman
game?
of
What
the
are you
Kennedy
looking to watch
Center
for?
Well,
Board?
I think you're going to have a great game. It's two great teams. I don't know. Who knows who's going to win? You have great players, though. You have really superstars playing on both teams. So I think it's going to be a great game.
Why do you want to be chairman of the Kennedy Center Board?
Because I want to make sure it runs properly. We don't need woke at the Kennedy Center. We don't need, some of the shows were terrible. They're a disgrace that they were even put on. So I'll be there until such time as it gets to be running right.
Have you seen any shows there? How do you know they're
I didn't
terrible?
go. No, I got reports it was so bad I didn't want to go. There was nothing I wanted to see. Thank you very much, everybody.
Yes, about Modi, sir. About Modi, you're meeting Modi.
I look forward to it. He was great. He's a great guy. He's very sad over his mother's passing. He's a great guy. Thank you.
Voilà, c'était donc président américain Donald Trump qui tapait un petit temps passé là, répondre aux questions côté que monsieur signe proclamation, lui déclaré jeudi 9 février à Gulf America pendant que l'été et sous route a volé dans zone nan, eh bien monsieur signe déclaration ça que il te dit il tapé déclaré Golfe du Mexique, Gulf America. Bon. Promesse que monsieur t'a fait, déclaration que t'a fait, il confirme à travers décret ou bien acte ça que li signe. Et puis chef l'État li parlait encore de une série de sujets qu'elle a commencé, mettait fin avec guerre Ukraine la Russie, comment la mettait fin avec lui. Il dit qu'il parlait avec Volodymyr Zelensky, il pour parler avec Vladimir Poutine pour accepter proposition pour finir avec la guerre là. Monsieur dit également li gagné pour mettre tarif sur tout pays qui a fait commerce avec les États-Unis qui pas respecter et tarif qui pas respecter relations commerciales là, la mettre 25% sous yo. Demain lundi en tout, eh bien tarif que la Chine mettait sur produits qui sorti aux États-Unis a entré en application, ya metté en vigueur demain lundi. Bon, quant à critique qui fait sous administration passée, nous pas besoin de tourner sur déjà on connaît yo et information à caractère politique et seulement n'a pas dit que chef l'État selon décision li yo retiré et sanitary les droits pour Joe Biden li gagner information sur ça qui a passé dans sécurité pays a clair ça et bien monsieur dit li retirer dans main Biden parce que Biden son disgrâce lié à pays pour ça que pour tout que le fait à États-Unis monsieur pas mérité pour le gagner bagay concernant meni d'après Donald Trump qui était lui-même après répondre une question journaliste donc en pile affaires slowly petit on va construire Gaza qui sont déserts qu'on y a côté que c'est démolition liée une zone qui démolit pas de building là-dedans qui au fin crasé pas d'intérêt pour quitter et Palestiniens retourner d'ailleurs pour lui-même si on retourner là c'est encore renforcer climat insécurité à by Hamas possibilité pour contrôler les zones non il pas de droit quitter monde tourner là du tout c'est tout météo dehors il fait comprendre que l'Égypte Qatar et Arabie Saoudite t'a doué aider li espérer ça dans recevoir Palestiniens yo et vini boy ici avec yo trop loin famille yo il pas quoi que yo intéressé vinn boy ici donc c'est plus dans zone là que yo intéressé rester pour ka boy famille yo selon déclaration chef l'État américain n'a dit que gagné un juge fédéral qui bloqué décision pour bailler accès à Elon Musk pour lui et river gagner contrôle gagner accès à documents dossiers informations dans département trésor avec éducation mais Donald Trump dit eh bien pas question c'est dans jour cap venir là monsieur a gagné accès à veille nous te dit que monsieur crasé comité qui t'a géré Kennedy Center espace là bagay qui concerne sanitary et espace aérien côté que États-Unis gagné étude qu'a fait pour voler dans l'espace eh bien équipe ça monsieur décidé li révoquer yo c'est lui qui gagne contrôle là konya monsieur dit c'est lui gagne la namel li pas quoi dans moun sa oda il apprendre que pas gagne accès cap régler ça pour contrôle il pas besoin ouais il pas besoin rencontrer il pas besoin de faire face à ça qu'a fait monsieur dit pas gagne rien qui t'a réglé là dans pays y a pas gagne rien qui t'a fait toute bagaille c'est corruption c'est démagogie donc pas gagne rien qui t'a réglé dans pays c'est li konya cap permettre États-Unis fonctionner et puis il parlait de canal Panama il parlait de Golfe Mexique là il parlait de Canada il parlait de Greenland et tout côté ça il t'a remis contrôler il t'a remis venir pour États-Unis que ta Canada lui-même si Canada prend décision pour venir 51e état américain c'est meilleure décision que Canadien t'a prend attendez bien oui nous même cap suivre Pstars ou bien monde qui pas brancher information pinga nous vinn après les dit oui qui sa présidente dit pas temps de sortir dit parce que nous pas suivre Pstars des fois la contingent difficile pour n'a pas détourner sous série d'informations que nous bail, si vous pas trop intéressé, eh bien, restez côté ou que vous habitué chercher information ou bien ça qui plus intéressé ou aucun doit arrêter là, vous comprenez, parce que nous bonne information et nous détaillons pour vous, nous fait le point pour vous sur multiples déclarations que chef l'État a fait information yo, ça peut-être nous penser que vous pas saisi par rapport à portée historique yo, par rapport à portée diplomatique qu'il gagne importance, n'a pas de portée importance diplomatique qu'il gagne et importance qu'il gagne sur le plan politico-économique. Eh bien, nous essayer dans toute limite que nous capables de chercher toute information que nous connaissons pour nous capables de faire des détails pour nous capables de faire le point pour aider pour comprendre ce qui a passé autour de nous. C'est responsabilité nous aider à comprendre ce qui a passé autour de nous pour capable prendre des décisions et de meilleures décisions parce que l'on bien informé ou prend une décision qui est bon pour vous. OK? Et c'est ça qu'on a cherché faire et c'est dire et pour tes informations pour bon genre information détaillée pour vous et éclairer l'antenne pour même ou capable en mesure pour prendre une décision qui est bon pour vous avec famille. Donc c'est ça yo et que chef l'État il fait comprendre que Biden passé 4 ans là, bon monsieur fait critique ça et que Biden pas une interview dans la période Super Bowl que lui-même lui fait. Donc chef l'État déplacé rive New Orleans là, est-ce que monsieur pral dans match là, est-ce que il rive l'autre bois juste pour le monter que le déplacer et rencontrer avec les journalistes Fox fait interview by déclaration que le bayo, ça c'est dossier à suivre. Quant à USAID, qui c'est une institution américaine qui travaille dans les relations États-Unis avec l'autre pays, avec l'autre organisme international, eh bien, monsieur dit, il est capable de disparaître, il est capable de écraser. Donc, les ça, petit pays qui te bénéficier aide des États-Unis, c'est le ministère Affaires étrangères. Vous comprenez ça, tant que secrétaire d'État, chef diplomatie Marco Rubio, c'est lui-même qui a géré ça pour quelques petits pays que vous va considérer et que vous même été mérité ou bien été traité au bien, dossier ça a été plus ou moins bien présenté et que Mounsao va bénéficier de aide que États-Unis qu'on là. Après ça, tout ratio y a éliminé yo, donc c'est normal pour gagner une réduction. Quand le ministère de l'Éducation nationale il dit oui, et par exemple, il y a des universités qui ont bénéficié de l'État qui n'ont pas besoin de chita son paquet d'argent, que n'ont pas utilisé, donc l'État pas subventionné encore. Les autant de ça, au même moment, avec papa petit cap suivre là, qui sont connectés pour arriver, financial aide. Si moun yo te konjouen l'école pour y aller à ou côté à l'inscrit dans l'école l'état ben non c'est des grands universitaires yo bénéficier aide de l'état parce que pas oublier gen l'école tout qui pas accepter financial aide ou comme ça gen qui pas accepter financial aide c'est là maman ak papa petit yo gen problème yo kon endetté parce que pour yo voyer petit yo l'école yo obligé d'accord prendre loan yo obligé d'accord prêter l'argent pour yo voyer ti moun yo l'école malheureusement tout gen pile qui paye conséquences là les monsieur dame ça yo fini l'école yo pas payer loan ça c'est maman ak papa yo qui paye conséquences c'est crédit yo qui prend calotte. Vous comprenez? Donc c'est tout ça, mais dans la quoi que notre démarche qu'il a fait là, notre travail qu'il a fait là, il peut sauver l'argent, il peut retirer une série de l'argent que il a utilisé dans mauvaises conditions dans série de centres universitaires, laisser sa répercussion, il peut tomber sous ti moun qui pas gen moyen comme si qui pas gen gros cob pareil ou pas gen gros cob yo, eh bien il pas capable aller dans collège. Donc c'est comme ça situation en yé. Ça veut dire que les ça eh bien on va dégager ou aller dans trade school ou dégager ou aller dans en community si ou capable entrer toujours parce que jusqu'à maintenant eh bien différence dans pas bam di ou moi t'ai fait expérience là dans PBS si moi t'ai allé al prend information pour un programme 2 ans collège c'est $38,000 il t'a coûté $38,000 t'a coûté de nous arriver comprendre c'est pas n'importe monde qui a possédé $38,000 OK cela veut dire que ou cap gagner tiobol ou cap trouver une difficulté énorme pour aller à l'école. OK l'État décidé couper l'argent ça autant coup et que moun qui t'a bénéficié food step moun qui l'autre aide de l'État qui a bénéficié n'a essayé de chercher information ramasser information que quelqu'un déjà qui yo même trouvé dans cas de figure ça ti aide que l'État qu'on va le couper et bien il y a des monde que nous pas essayer si vous connaissez moun nous ka toujours relé nous ba nous information lundi ba nous information pas ba nous information non mais permettre que nous entrions en contact avec un sali même qui va parler avec nous pour nous rassurer nous avons de bonnes informations. Nous n'avons pas besoin d'informations deuxième mai, nous n'avons pas besoin d'informations comme si nous avions dit que ou même par contre nous pral dissolver. Non, moun qui victime, nan moun qui concerné aller nous parler avec lui, nous va connaître exactement qui ça que te qu'on recevoir, combien que yo retire là-dedans. Est-ce que yo bal on raison parce que y a voulon l'aide bali pour dire mes raisons yo couper aide, yo couper subvention que l'État te qu'on bali. N'a cherché ça yo et puis n'a fait émission n'a venir ensemble avec eux pour nous éclairer l'antenne pour comprendre et que j'en te dis nous venir pour nous rester na bonne information mais na de bonnes informations. Red branché Pstars FM radio télévision spécial Sunday, spécial dimanche côté que Super Bowl là, c'est à l'heure comme ça il va démarrer et bien nous là ensemble avec vous, nous allons porter information pour tical pas tical pour comprendre pour assimiler comme David ou manger ou pas prendre plat manger aussi tard manger deux coups mais de temps à autre ou passer pour un deux qui ou 25 $ ou pour un petit mot souvienne par contre qui est-ce que lié si son petit poule créole ou bien un bon petit cabrit ou 25 $ ou capable prendre quelqu'un qui aime ça il y a qui aime petit pétade tout ou prendre et bien si c'est ça yo ou pas chita manger deux coups nous connaît que va prendre tical pas tical c'est qu'on est capable bon divin depuis vient bon li chita li si hôtel de temps à autre li pour goûter puis le déposer vers pour goûter le déposer vers n'a bonne information jusqu'à ce que nous arriver les matchs commencer et puis nous va faire score partiel pour sur réseau pour la Pstars FM radio télévision red branché réseau pour la madame monsieur information pendant que nous là nous va garder tout ça gagné dans l'actualité internationale avec vous.